This episode of Noise of the Broke Boys is brought to you by the Poop Emoji. Do you ever send text messages and wish there was a way to more explicitly let the recipient know just how you feel about them? Or are there moments you feel like adorably showing your disdain for a certain action by relating it to a cute pile of fecal matter? Introducing the Poop Emoji. Let your boss know just how you feel about working overtime by subtly slipping a poop emoji into your email signature. That'll show them. No more are the days when your spouse can nag you to take the garbage out without passive-aggressively receiving a heartfelt poop emoji. Love is in the air. Act now so you can let all your enemies know just how similar they are to anthropomorphic human excrement. And now, on to the show. In this episode, I talk with an amazing artist. This guy always does a great job with every project he puts together. Not only is he a dope dancer, but a talented music producer as well. He recently released a new album titled Acuestate that I included as a backing track to this show. I encourage you to listen to the album in its entirety outside of the show, as it is a tremendous feat of musical brilliance. Links to the album are included in the description. Please enjoy the episode with my friend Francis, aka With You of the Fourth World. Welcome back, everybody, to another hour of Flaming Pollution. I am your host, Kurt the Hurt, and I have a special guest today. He is a true artist in every sense of the word, Mr. Francis, aka With You of Fourth World. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. I've been wanting to get you on for like so long. Because obviously this is like an art podcast, and I feel like you are one of my friends that really embodies that word of being an artist. It's like it's like everything you do, it seems like it's a work of art almost, you know what I mean?
Thanks, man.
What do you think about that?
I think I'm lucky. I feel really lucky. I mean, yeah, I just feel lucky. I don't know what life would be like without that, you know? Mm-hmm. It would be a lot less meaningful. So.
Yeah, I think art, yeah, it really is like a meaningful thing. It's like when you're putting a lot of effort into something and really, I guess, throwing a piece of you into everything you do. And I see that that's what you do. And that's why I really enjoy like all the work you do, which obviously is like music and dance and other things like that. So, so another reason why I got you on here is because you just released a new album, which hopefully I can pronounce this right. Acuestate, is that right? Is that close?
Yeah, it's not too bad. Yeah, it's Acuestate, which means to like lie down. It's like if you're telling someone to lie down, but the way that I understand it is like, you know, lie down, like rest, you know, go to sleep, you know. So, yeah.
Is there what was the meaning behind that?
Yeah, that was something where it's like growing up, it's something that I would just hear a lot from like usually my grandma or my mom, like to be like, go to sleep. Oh, you're stressed or you're whatever, you're going through whatever, you like lie down, like take a nap, to sleep, you know, like it'll be, you know, I don't know. I thought of it as like synonymous with like, you know, if you go to sleep right now, maybe, you know, things will be better tomorrow, or like help with your stress, you know, help with coping and stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Kind of like, you know, it'll tone your emotion down a little bit. Definitely like in the moment you're like, oh, I want to get angry or whatever, get really sad or something. But sometimes you just need to kind of like chill a little bit and let it brew in your mind, and you know, kind of.
Yeah, you're all amped up, or, you know, you're going to feel some type of way in the moment. But yeah.
I guess that's a pretty appropriate title for an album that is like, well, you kind of have everything in there, like kind of like emotionally. It's you got. See, when I first read it, Acuestate, I was like, oh, this must mean major bops and jams and bangers, because that's what I'm hearing in this album.
Hey.
But obviously, it has another meaning. But yeah, it seems like an appropriate title for an album, because it's kind of like that's what you're doing when you're listening to music, is you're kind of chilling out and like soaking in the moment, soaking in the mood, soaking in the sounds, and
yeah,
tight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like you're able to, like get into a place where you're like comfortable enough and like open enough to let that kind of steer you, you know, because so much of the day, right, we're like, I feel like we're, especially like in our society, we're kind of like, we tend to be like, or like what's incentivized is like being goal oriented and being like, you know, having these like 4 things on your list and like knocking them out. But to be in a space where you can let go of that for a little bit and let, you know, another part of your senses take you somewhere, that's like, yeah, I think that's what's cool about it. And that's what I hope that like people could get into a place of, so that, you know, they could maybe, hopefully get like just transported to some cool places that like don't even exist, you know, like in the world, you know, but you can create it, you know, like
create in your mind
to get, yeah.
That's tight. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to talk about this later, but you're a med school student, and I imagine that there's a lot of pressure in your life, and it seems like that probably really influences your music. Would you say that's true?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. So much pressure. Like, yeah, I don't even have the words for it. Yeah, definitely. And like, yeah, that's like a, you know, obviously like pain and all, you know, all the different emotions that we can experience, like can, you know, have the things that come with that. But I think also like if you're even just trying to show up to try to make something or try to just do something like creative, like it's always gonna be fulfilling, you know, even if you don't have something to show for it, you know. And so yeah, definitely no shortage of pressure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you, the inspiration for the album, was there anything like particular behind it? I mean, it definitely seems like you got particularly in the first track, it seems like there's a lot of kind of like sound recordings, and I forget which song it was, but one of them it almost sounded like you recorded from like maybe one of like a procedure. I don't know. It was like kind of an interesting thing. It was a little hard to hear, but I was like, oh, there's something into this. So I could really sense that there was maybe something like behind everything.
Yeah, there were. I mean, there's so many things. Like I don't know. I think like, man, where do I even start? I think like first off, I like you know how in video games or stuff or like different shit, like there'd be like Easter eggs, or movies too, right? Like
yeah.
That like the hardcore fans would be like, oh shit, you know, like that's a reference to whatever, or like, oh what? It's mad funny. Yeah, and so like I love doing that, and I would like sort of like put these little like audio snippets or things like that are Easter eggs from my life, but also I think things that you know, other people might relate to or have. So like for example, like I don't know if you heard of the anime like Demon Slayer, but like I put like some shit, you know, I don't know, just stuff like that everywhere. But yeah, but the a lot of audio snippets that are like personal to me. So it's like it's almost like I don't have the words to like eloquently like express everything that I'm feeling, but then like I'm using all these different like snippets from like, you know, whether it's like a pathology professor talking about the spleen, or if it's like you know, if it's like somebody talking about having trouble sleeping or anxiety or like depression or like, you know, like just, you know, all these sounds that are just trying to convey like the things that I'm trying to work through. But also like, yeah, and tell the story in that way. And I think, and then I think to answer your question, I think the way I thought about it in terms of the album is like how, you know, there are a lot of different ways that people make an album or think about an album. But one that I learned about was like literally like a more like a chronological story kind of flow. And I thought that was a good idea, or a good way to like approach it. And so like, it's literally, the album starts with, you know, my mom like telling me to go to sleep, and then each song is sort of like getting deeper and deeper into like, you know, the stages of like sleep or whatever. and so to the point where you are dreaming, and that's why like you're at a place where you can go to all these different places that don't seem connected, but they are in a way.
Interesting.
It's your brain, right? It's your dream. It's your vision. It's your thoughts, right? It's like, right, you're like, some people say that when you sleep, like changing, or each time you think about a memory, it's constantly changing, like a book on a shelf, and
Yeah.
you get all these crazy combinations and permutations and shit. So each song is kind of like that, it's just a different permutation, a different like dream, and and then that's why the last song is Sunrise, because it's literally like the sun is coming up and you just had this night of crazy ass dreams, and things you're thinking about, and then you wake up and that's the end of it,
Dope. That's really tight. Now that you explain that, I really see it in the or hear it in the album. That's really tight, dude.
Yeah.
I could tell that there was something behind it all, because I was like, oh, dude, there's just like, it has just some, maybe it's just the Easter eggs I was hearing in it, but I was like, oh man, there's definitely something going on with this that I don't quite understand yet. So I've listened to it probably about like 3 or 4 times now, so I'm gonna have to listen to it again with this in mind, and like, and then
thanks, man.
try to see if I can get anything deeper into that. And so you going back to like what you said earlier, you said your mother was the one that you took the snippet from in the beginning.
Yeah.
I thought
she literally.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, she literally just says like, "Acuestate, mijo." Like she's like, "Go to sleep, my son. Like, go to sleep." Yeah. So,
for some reason, I was thinking that was your grandma, because I know that you've like put a lot of audio clips from her before.
Yeah. So before she passed away, she was living in Wisconsin, and we had a family friend because she was a music teacher, and so she had all these songs like memorized on the piano, and we had a family friend that like helped her record some of those songs, and they were, thankfully, like I had like they were burned on a CD, and I like was able to like save all the songs on my computer. So it was just like a fun challenge, like trying to like sample my grandma. It's almost like you're collaborating with your grandparent,
Yeah.
And so she is in the first track, the very first track after the introduction. So
okay.
And she's been in I think every project I made in some way.
Dope. Yeah. No, that's really I don't know, touching, I guess, that you kind of have a piece of like your history in all these songs, and it's obviously she's obviously a person who's had a huge influence on you and your music, and you, putting a little piece of that is really a touching thing. I don't know.
Yeah. It makes it more gratifying, like.
Yeah.
It's like, because I mean, like, maybe I'm getting too meta or whatever right now, but it's like ultimately, it's like we do all this stuff, and then it begs the question, like, what for? Like, why are we doing all this stuff? What is it all for? What's the purpose of it? And like, the answer to that, and obviously, you get 1,000 different answers from everybody, but for me, like, I think, being able to make it personal, being able to just, I don't know, it's another way of like sifting through like my feelings or my experiences. And so that's helpful for me. So, for somebody else, maybe it is too, and if it is, that's great. I think it could be helpful to people. So.
Yeah. So is that one of the main goals that you have in like your music, or I guess in any of your art, is to have some kind of like feeling or have some sort of like reaction when someone is like viewing it or listening to it?
Yeah, I mean, I would just hope that it could resonate, it could connect in some way. Like, I don't really know what that would look like or whatever, but but once in a while, I'll get a message from someone and they'll say something like that, and it's always interesting to hear what they say or what they picked out or what they felt. But I think, I mean, if like a bunch of if this just random like crap load of sounds that have just been mashed together can make somebody feel something or rethink through a situation or like move past something, difficult or whatever it is, or get them interested in like, and be like, I've never heard of this sound. Like, where is this from? Stimulating curiosity or like these things that like, I think for me, like in my transition to adulthood, sometimes I'm like I'm holding on for dear life, curiosity about the world, or like being in awe about like the moon or something, like if you can like stifle or not stifle, if you can give that to somebody, if you can like reignite like a passion or something that they had forgotten about that they used to really love, and just get someone excited about something too. I think like that's, you know, that's always great, you know, like, so that's really the biggest thing, I think. And then just obviously, you know, making people want to, you know, dance or like just feel funky, you know, like feel their soul, you know, however that you know what I mean, just be like, you know what, out of body.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, it kind of like it captures their soul for a second. Yeah, it's really interesting how music does that, because it, like you said, it is just a random assortment of sounds and noises, but for some reason when it's put in this, you know, melodic pattern, we go, oh man, this ignites a mood in me, and now, you know, all this emotion kind of sparks up, and now, you know, I don't know, it's such an interesting phenomenon. And I've been trying to learn a little bit more about why that happens, but I don't know, it's something that I don't know if it's well studied actually in, like, you know, in science or what, but it's such a cool phenomenon.
I mean, I've definitely nerded out on some of that stuff, and there is a whole like discipline of like, what is it, like, I forget what it's called, like biopsych. I don't remember. I remember there was just this 10-minute video of this techno dude, probably from Berlin. He was like, no, I'm not even gonna try to impersonate him because that would be a bad look right now. But yeah, he's just talking about like the way that he was processing the drums and how the brain interprets it, and then obviously like just like I don't know if the science has changed on this, but like at one time there was this idea that like the memory centers in the brain are close to where a lot of the auditory processing centers are too. The same, it's like, and smell too, you know, the same way that, like, you know, you smell like, I don't know, what's your favorite food, Kurt?
Well, you know what, I think what you're saying is like when you smell something and it just ignites a memory. Like for me, it would be it would probably be the way that my grandma used to cook her turkey for Thanksgiving. Like when I smell that, I'm always like, oh my god, it like takes me back to that moment. Or like a lot of the stuff she used to cook, like a lot of old like German dishes and stuff, but like when I smell that, it's like the food doesn't even need to be in front of me, but I'll smell it and go like, I'll remember being like 10 years old and eating that or whatever. So it's a really cool phenomenon too. That's
the best. So
you're saying it's similar to like for sound as well, because it's close by?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's my understanding, at least right now, unless it's changed. But
yeah, no, that's really cool. I didn't know that, but man, I mean, that would explain it, I guess. I don't know. I mean, I'm no biologist, so what the heck do I know?
Me neither. I'm like confused and lost most of the time, but I know a little bit.
Well, you're definitely on a higher level of understanding that kind of thing than I am, for sure.
Man, I definitely can't do what you do, bro. So I give it up to you. My bad. I'm just checking this timer thing. Okay, we're good. Still got 9 minutes. So,
yeah, no problem. So going back to your grandmother, well, actually, I wanted to talk about the your alias with you, which we were talking before we started recording, and I thought it was a really interesting, I guess, insight into it, because I always, when I first read it, I was like, oh, it's like woohoo, like a Mario woohoo or something. And then you were telling me about how your grandmother has like a high influence in your music. And I was like, oh, it must be with you, as in like with your grandma, you're playing music with your grandma. And you said that it's not quite that, but it, you know, it was you almost have a different interpretation of it. So
yeah, but it, like, you know, like we were talking about this earlier, and like, I mean, it's not literally that, but it also kind of is, in the sense that like, I mean, first off, I'm really bad at coming up with names, but I just chose that because I thought about like how personal music is to me, and how like it's, and just for all of us, you know, like we're walking like, you know, libraries of like sounds and collections of sounds and songs that we grew up listening to, that we heard in our homes with our families, with what our friends used to bump whenever we did whatever, you know, sports or activities that we enjoyed growing up. So it's like we're just like this walking like compilation album pretty much. And so, you know, everybody probably, I'd wager, like has something that they, you know, was usually stuck in their head, or, you know, songs that they remember. And so it's like, for me, that name that I chose is just like, these are the sounds that I hear in my head. This is like the soundtrack that it's like constantly evolving in my brain. But like, I guess for the last, you know, year and a half, this is like all this stuff that was like, you know, marinating in my head, and like, boom, splat on the, you know, on the MP3, you know, listen to that, you know, that was in my, but basically, yeah. But also, like, on a more serious note, it's just like that, like that intimacy, that like, that intimate relationship that I have with music, and like, and just speaking to like how important it is to me, and how, I know that for other people it can mean that too, and maybe even more. And so, yeah, just really trying to get at that intimacy and like that personal relationship that we all have with sound.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, I think we were talking about earlier, how like it's almost, you know, it's just like a shorthand, you know, it's like W/U. And so it's like, I mean, you know, when I talk about it, usually I'll say it's like with you, but really it can be whatever it needs to be for the person in that given moment, you know. And just like how music has different things that it can do for people in a given moment too. It can be entertainment, right? You don't have to think about the lyrical content. If it feels good, you know, it feels good. Or if you want to, right, you can curl up with a book and like read, you know, like Malcolm Gladwell. I don't know why he came in my brain right now, but you know, you can him and listen to, you know, your Harry Potter soundtrack. You know, it can be what it needs to be for you in the moment, and that's what I also love about it so much. And that's why what it sounds like and what it feels like can be so many things too. So
yeah, art is like a deeply personal thing, but you're sharing it with other people, so it's like you're giving them kind of a glimpse into like the craziness that's going on in your mind almost, right? Yeah. And definitely people will interpret it differently, and it grows from like what this small thing that you made into having so much more meaning just to everybody. And that's, I think, a really interesting part of art. I mean, I'm trying to remember this example, but I can't remember which artist it was. But basically, there was someone who, you know, all these people had been analyzing this guy's artwork, and they're like, oh, it means all this and this and this. And then like someone, I think, interviewed him, and he's like, oh yeah, I just like the color, and I really wanted to paint like a picture, you know, like of my mom or something. And so it was like that. But like, to him it was just that, but it somehow his feelings towards his mother got put onto the, you know, the painting or whatever, and then everybody got something from that, got a glimpse into his life basically in the way that he did that, which I think is really cool, because obviously he's going, oh yeah, it was just this and that, but it is more than that, because he does have this feeling towards his mother, and he put that onto the artwork, right? And then people were able to spot that in the art and take something from that was maybe deeper than he intended, but the intent was almost subconscious, I guess, is maybe the best way.
Which is cool.
Yeah,
and maybe all those people helped him realize that, you know, even if he wasn't aware in that moment.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you are the artist, but also some of the most artistic qualities of it isn't so apparent, and other people have brought it to your forefront.
So true. I remember, like, I forgot what artist this was or something, but I remember more like abstract modern art, you know, like I guess, you know, the, like, when people kind of generalize like modern art as like, you know, like a circle and like a square and then like a splatter. And then there was like this like museum curator or something like that in the video, and she was like, oh, you know, like the two circles in the painting, you know, they sort of remind me of the stratification of the caste system in the society and the way different individuals, you know what I mean? And then he was like,
I like circles, man.
He was like, circles are good, man.
That's tight.
But I love that. I think that's great, you know, like if that can.
I mean, it's definitely like a meme to do, I guess, for people to do that. But I do think that there's some value to like over analyzing a piece of art that was just so simple, you know, because you're definitely putting some like a personal like a personal connection into that thing that, you know, obviously you have some kind of connection to it, and you're adding more to it, you know, whether that was the intent of them or not. I think that there's some inherent value in that. And
yeah, I mean, because you're still, like, obviously there's free will in art, in the decisions and the choices that we make when we're making stuff, but it's also like, it's still on some level informed by like our life, you know? Like, I'm thinking about, maybe I might not be thinking why I like that, you know, that I chose or something.
Yeah.
But for a reason, you know, I'm like, oh yeah. Or that, you know, it sounds like the color pink to me for some reason. So I'm pink, so let me throw that down. Let me slap that on there.
So moving on to this next topic. You've been a dancer for a long time, a b-boy. What do you find is the like relationship between like music and dance, music production and dance?
I think so many things. I don't know. I think like obviously in the most literal sense, like as dancers, we have a little bit more perspective on like the stuff that makes us want to, you know, go off, you know, like.
But now you're creating the thing that makes you go off. You have control of that too. So
yeah, you have a gauge, you know, you have a natural gauge of what your butt is doing, you know. So it's like the more heat you're just like, you know, you're like,
dang, there it is, dude.
You know,
first twerking.
Like, oh shoot, badonk, and then you know, that's your like, you know, little meter, you know, like, oh yo, limit break, you know.
Limit break, that's what's up.
Yo.
Final
like limit
Fantasy,
break, like I can drop this, reference. You know. But in all seriousness, yeah, like definitely I think like that's a gift because you have more insight on like, I don't know, what you like to hear and what you think other people might enjoy like dancing to and stuff in any genre. But what else? I don't know. I think like just I don't know, just playing with different rhythms. Obviously you've heard a lot of different dance music, so that's gonna have an impact on like things that you want to explore, things that maybe you think would be fun to incorporate, maybe that you've never heard before. You know, you might like this style of like popping music, but then you're like, oh, what would that sound like with like bossa nova or something?
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
You know, like that, you know, again, like you can create like creating new grooves or like new stuff like that, and then it's kind of like a feedback loop, right? Like you can create something like that, and then maybe that can help a dance evolve or like a person's style evolve too. So it's kind of like you're giving more people to play more like a sonic palette to play with. They can evolve too, and I'm sure they all kind of like feed into each other. But yeah.
Do you ever like make a track and then you're like, oh, this is a banger, and then you just play it and start dancing to it, and then start like creating some new move or something?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've just been like go roll on the floor, and then like I'm like, yo, yeah, that's happened before. And I think that's part of it too, you know, your question. It's like, I think it's like at least for me, my thoughts on dancing are like, you know, it should be, I mean, you should try to at least understand and appreciate whatever that foundation is, and then like, so honor that, and then try to, do that, incorporate that into your dance and stuff. But it should also be like, you know, unapologetically like yourself, and it always fun at the end of the day, you know. So it's like, if you're making, you know, a dance music or whatever, and it's not feeling fun and it's not feeling real to you, then it's like, for me, I don't see as much of a point to it. But for me, you know, like, I think it should just be fun, spontaneous, you know, ideally not sounding like, you know, like mixed well, and like not sounding bad. But yeah, but aside from that, as long as it's fun, it's just you doing your thing, and just kind of where you're at with trying to make dance music, then that's okay, you know. I think it's more for the people than for yourself anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You mentioned foundation, and what what is your, how do I say this? Like, what are your thoughts on foundation, and I guess how do you reconcile that with I guess like being what you were saying earlier is unapologetically yourself?
Yeah, I think like, I don't know. I mean, I guess we could talk about it within like breaking, right? Like,
yeah, in breaking, yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, there's so much merits to learning a chair freeze, right? Or just like how that the concept of what a freeze even is. Because if I'm not aware of that, then I mean, there's nothing wrong with like just freely like, like just like and stuff. But I don't know. I think there's just so much value in like understanding like what are the cornerstones of like of this dance, like what are the things that make breaking like footwork, like like, and having that understanding, and at least within like the realm of like what your body can actually do, like trying to learn that, and then from there, I'm sure like through the process of learning that, you're always finding yourself, and you're always you try to learn like a step or a pattern, and you accidentally slip this way, and then that turns into something that is you, that is unapologetically you, because it's part of your like journey, trying to learn foundation or whatever. And then like, yeah, and it just helps you to bet, like if you have that understanding of that foundation, then it helps you to be yourself unapologetically more, because then you have that platform to stand like firmly on. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing with music. It's the same thing with like, like what I was telling you about the medicine stuff. Like when you have to present a patient, you have your foundation, and like you're gonna throw you around now, because there's more wiggle room for you to be yourself, because you honored what that foundation is, and you made sure to know that well. And so now it's like, now you have like a clear way to tell your story, like you can cook this omelet for somebody and give it to them, and you can put bell peppers in it. But the thing that they'll notice is that the bell peppers, because it's like, it clearly tastes like an omelet, right? Versus like, I don't know if you didn't know how to make an omelet, and then people would just be like,
yeah, who made
and then they wouldn't notice your bell pepper.
Yeah.
So the same type of thing, I think.
Yeah, no, I've always thought about like foundation kind of like as I almost think that every person has their own foundation in a way. I mean, there's definitely like, I kind of separate the word foundation and like textbook moves, because there's obviously there's obviously textbook moves in breaking, which we can talk about all that, 6-step, windmill, flare, whatever, head spin, like those are obviously textbook moves. But I've always been like, foundation is kind of something a little bit more, because it is deeply personal. Because I definitely think that everybody, to be a good b-boy or b-girl, has to really understand their body and what the capabilities of it are, and then you take those textbook moves and use and have your body like perform those, and that becomes your actual foundation in that sense. And so long story short, I've always thought of foundation as more of like a control of your body kind of thing, rather than an actual move kind of thing. And I think that's how I really reconcile being unapologetically yourself with foundation. I don't know, it's an interesting concept that I've always like thought about. So
no, I love that. No, I think I definitely think of it in the same vein. I think also like foundation as being just knowledge, like knowledge of the history of the dance, knowledge of the culture, and then knowledge in recognizing exactly what you're saying, like that. I mean, like I think that's part of what makes breaking so special, that like it has a foundation, and like we're really talking about like all the different ways that foundation manifests, but like originality very much stems from that, like that foundation of yourself, and understanding how to move, the things that you can and that you can't do, and honoring that, and just yeah, using that to create your own sort of foundation. So
Yeah,
I mean that's cool. Yeah, I love that. So,
I mean, this was a long time ago when I really started thinking about this, because you know, when I was like a young b-boy, everyone was like, you gotta have foundation, but then also it was like, you also gotta be original, you can't bite. And I was like, dude, those two things almost seem different, like, right? But and so it never made sense in my mind, you know, as a young b-boy, because it almost seems like they're you know, counterintuitive, they're counter to each other, right?
yeah.
And so I kept trying to reconcile that, right? And I think I finally realized that originality really is foundation to breaking, and your relationship between originality and those textbook moves is your foundation. And I think that's probably the best way I've like really understood that now. And so
I love that.
yeah,
I think that's something that, especially breaking, just makes that a possibility, like in that way, you know. It seems like it, I don't know, from my understanding, but yeah, I love that.
yeah
Makes sense.
So one of the interesting things, I mean, obviously anyone who's seen you break has seen like you have this really unique style. And I mean, I think it's definitely because of the way you approach dance, but I also I know that you have like some hip kind of like thing, and I'm curious like how you think that has like really influenced your style.
Yeah, so I didn't know, I wasn't aware of it, but I had like hip dysplasia, or like hip misalignment. I don't know at what point it happened, but I remember like experiencing it as early as like 17 years old, like playing soccer and like feeling my hip click. But I caught up with, you know, the next thing, like whether that was I got to pass these classes or I got to do this or do that. And so, yeah, by that, so then like 7 years passed. What was it? I don't know. Some time passed. I tore my ACL in a battle. I used to love doing flips, and yeah, my ACL exploded. I was doing like an aerial or something. It was like this takedown on my shoulder, and yeah, it just pop, just exploded, and it was over. And then but long story short, around that time, I was like, well, I'm already here, you know, at Kaiser Permanente, so I should probably, you know, like advocate for myself. And like 10, you know, appointments later of like, and being sent to every possible place, you know, finally they were like, all right, we'll give you an MRI. And so, yeah, that was the beginning of like, I think 4 different surgeries, 3 or 4, 1 for the ACL and then 3 for the hips on the left and the right side. So,
Wow.
yeah, and like, yeah, so I had like a lot of cartilage damage because I was like a hardcore skater for like, man, like 13 or 14 years, just jumping off shit.
Yeah. That'll F your body.
Did a lot of damage in there. Yeah. Like, yeah. And so like, I'm like pre-osteoarthritic probably. Like I'll probably, I mean, knock on wood, but it's probably going to happen. I'll probably need like hip replacements and stuff.
Oh man.
And so at the time it was tough because, you know, and it still is, you know, dancing is still my main form of exercise. But that was really devastating at that time because it's just like a lot of, one conception of human suffering is like loss of self, like loss of sense of self. And for me, that sense of self is derived from a lot of things that I enjoy doing, right? That are physically active.
Yeah.
So that was really hard. And so, you know, but again, you know, we're really fortunate, you know, we are, you know, we break, you know, and so, and you know, and we enjoy other dances too, right? So I was like, well, I could just say, you know, I guess I'm just gonna quit and that's it. But it's like, I don't know, you know, I imagine like from your experience too, there's probably been some times where, you know, you have this love that's just like constantly overflowing, and that's not going away. But then, you know, other aspect of your life is trying to, you know, come in the way of you engaging with that love in the way that you want to. And so I guess I just came to a crossroads where I was like, well, I guess I could just stop. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm really stubborn, and like I just wanted to figure it out. Because I remember I remember one of my surgeons, like, he was like, "Oh, so this break dancing, like, what are you doing?" I was like, "Can you?" I showed him a video, like Kid David doing like a 6-step or something, and he was like, "Oh." he was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You shouldn't do that anymore." Like, "Oh, but man."
Oh, that's heartbreaking, dude.
Yeah, he told me to stop, and I was like, "Fuck, man, I don't want to stop." And so, but like, after that depressing appointment, I was thinking about, Junior, ill abilities, like just all these. I mean, just all these cats that just they find a way to move. They're all just moving. It's like they all have their foundation, and it's like, so the door. I mean, I'm sure that there must be some poppers or other dancers that have found a way too with their respective styles, but I just saw a lot of examples in the dance that that gave me a lot of hope, and so I was like, I'm gonna try. I'm gonna get this out, and also just like another thing about breaking, I think the dancing in general, or in a lot of scenes, is like that sense of community too that you can have with people. Like I really didn't want to. I love that so much, and I didn't want to lose that either. And I just appreciated it so much. So I would miss not going to practice 2 times a week or even 3 times a week, and just hearing the music, engaging with people, and obviously, getting exercise and all that stuff. There's so many positive things about it. So basically after that, I was just like, I went online. I remember, like, I don't know if you know that Bboy, like Peter or something. I think he's from like Denmark. Do I know this? I don't know. I know a lot of useless information, but he was doing like a planche workout, like, doing all that stuff. And I was just looking up all that stuff because I was just like, well, these people that have found their own foundation, part of it is like they're building on what it is that they are able to do instead of being focused on what they can't do. So I was like, well, my ass works still last time I checked. My belly works last time I checked. My back is all right last time I checked. Shoulders,
Yeah.
That's okay at least for now. So it's like, why don't I focus on strengthening my muscles in those areas? Why don't I focus on figuring out a way to move in all these seemingly awkward positions? But there's always a relationship to establish. There's always a connection to be made. It's just that path hasn't been like maybe explored as much for a lot of different reasons. One being, maybe people think it just looks dumb, or maybe it's just more difficult, right? But that in itself makes it more worthwhile too. Because if you can, for me, in my mind, it's like, if I could find a way to do that, then that would just be wonderful, because I'd be able to dance again, and also maybe make some cool stuff, create some new stuff again, creating something out of nothing. And it's like one of the best things about breaking or dance in general. It's like we're always, and art in general, it's like we're creating a space, we're creating an environment, a mood, a feeling, an energy, that you get when you go to the gym, and everyone's like, wow, it's like that party vibe or whatever it is, people are having a good time, people are feeling love, hate, emotion, camaraderie, competitiveness, you know what I mean? Learning, values about self-confidence, formative experiences for high school students and people in their 30s, whatever, they're all, you know what I'm saying? And it's all from nothing. Like, if you think about it, it's just a bunch of people standing in a room, a hot and sweaty room, and then there's like 2 speakers and some guy that's like, you know what I mean? Or girl, or, however you, identify, whatever your respective gender identity is. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, all it is. And we get so much from it. And so I was like, shit, man, I gotta figure this out, because I can't give this up,
Yeah. Dude, that's tight. And like, so you obviously like work through those struggles, and I mean, that's the definition right there of unapologetically yourself, almost, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah
It's and so anyways, so I think it's really cool to share that story, because I know that there's a lot of like new dancers out there that, maybe they have something, that they're struggling through, whether it be like an actual injury or something, or maybe something different that, that we don't understand, but, and that's deterring them from dancing. But I think it's really cool to hear stories like yours, where it's like, it's almost like it made you better. It kind of gave you a superpower in a way, because you had this, you had this obstacle that you had to get over, and it made you like, once you got on the other side of the obstacle, it was like a huge door opened up for you, and you obviously like thrived in that. And you know, and Junior is a good example of that too. Cujo too. It's like all these guys you hear about that, you know, had obvious obstacles in front of them, but they were able to get over it, and it, you know, made them. I mean, Junior in my mind is one of the greatest, and like it'd be hard to imagine him being what he is without, like, you know, I think it's like a leg thing that he has or something. So it's really interesting how that happens. It's like it's a, I don't know what you'd say, a disability, I guess, becomes a superpower. Right? Yeah,
I mean, what is it? I heard something like, you know, it's so much easier to be yourself than to try to, you know, be someone else, or, you know, conform to a certain style or a certain sound. Like, and I think like it's an exercise in that. Like, I mean, I could have tried to somehow, you know, just do exactly what I was doing before, but obviously it wouldn't have been sustainable, and it would have hurt a lot too. And so it's like, if you can, you know, double down on yourself, and like, and just remember that, you know, that you know, when you're on the floor, when you're battling someone, you're really like battling yourself first and foremost, challenging yourself to just to find your way to move. And story, then it's like, and you've already won, you know, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. Like, yeah, maybe I don't have, quote unquote, what the judges are looking for, but like, I guess this just depends on why someone dances. But in my case, it's like, it doesn't even matter. I mean, what matters is the effort that we, right, the hours and the everything that goes into practicing, or everything that like leads up to that moment, you know, that 1 minute, you know, all that time and all that energy and devotion for 1 minute of, in my case, maybe a crash or maybe not a crash, right? But it's all like, it's just it's so worthwhile, you know? So yeah. And I hope, so I'll go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then all that kind of pressure on yourself, and it's a very big mix of emotions when you're like dancing, because it's like it's a culmination of everything you've practiced, every experience you've gone through, and you're throwing it all out on the dance floor in front of everybody to judge you, I guess is
and it's hard not to feel that too in the moment. I get it, like, we're human, right? Like, I would still get nervous and all that stuff, but yeah, I would just say, man, like, to anyone out there, if you just rolled your ankle or you broke your arm or whatever it is, just, you know, I mean, there are just, if you can, you know, after you obviously like feel the grief you're gonna feel or whatever it is, and you're able to like let that like flow through you after that, and then, you know, just think about what it is that you can, you know, what are other parts of your body or other things that you can focus on, or even like in your mind, right? What are things that you can learn about? It doesn't even have to be within dancing, right? It's like, these are opportunities to, you know, work on other things. Like, this is like kind of like loosely related, but, you know, obviously with the current circumstances with like COVID-19, I had a friend who he was spending more time indoors, so he got into beat making. He started producing because inside more, you know. So in general, it's just like all this stuff is a metaphor for the unpredictability of like what tomorrow brings, and then you know how and where, you know, where I think we can win is if we, you know, we ask ourselves, well, how can we adapt to this? How can we take this as look at this as an opportunity to just explore something new, to further ourselves in some other way? Because I mean,
and so furthering yourself, that's probably a good segue into you as a med school student, like, because obviously that you got like a ton of you know, a lot of work to do, tons of pressure. Like, it seems like such a crazy thing to be juggling while doing everything that you already do. And can you maybe like give us a little bit about that?
I mean, shit is hard. I think, like, I don't know. I feel like fortunate that like a lot of the things that I've been able to pursue or keep doing are things that you can do. That, like, they're flexible schedule wise. Like, I'm not in a band. I don't need. hook up with 3 other people to, and then everything that comes with that or whatever, phone or record or something like that. And I don't need to go to like, some club if I want to practice. I just roll, I just walk a couple feet and then I just roll around, so I think like I've had to, I'm lucky in that way. And like, I've been able to, sustain myself because of the fact that, like at that random, like 2 a.m. part of the night where I was at the library and I just was done studying or whatever, I could just go do that, It would be different if I played golf or something, but luckily I don't. No diss to all the golfers out there. Oh, shade, throwing shade. But...
Ajax loves golf. So,
oh shit, sorry, Ajax. Man, I don't even know you, man. I just
no, he's
okay. Hey man, don't put that on the highlight reel, man. I might get called out online.
Nah, he's chill.
Like, online Instagram live.
Hey,
call out.
Or here, hey Ajax, golf is whack.
Oh,
no, I'm just
shit,
kidding,
man.
dude.
Anyway, I mean, it's like, but anyway, I always have found myself wishing I had more time, to do all this stuff. But then again, I think about like before I started school and like, when I was, back out on the West Coast, how I would just have some days of like crazy writer's block where it would be like, I'd suddenly have an entire day to work on stuff. And then I'd just be like, oh,
yeah,
like just, couldn't break through whatever, and then that versus it's like some days I'll have like 15 minutes or 30 minutes, but you can, sometimes you make a lot of progress. So it's just like, you just don't really know like what's going to happen when you show up. What's most important is just showing up and being open to the possibility. And like, I think I've gotten better about like all these different strategies for a creative block. And so that's been really helpful. And just remembering like days like that, where it's like, I was at my Oakland apartment and it's like, I had a whole day, but I couldn't do anything. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like greener type stuff, So that kind of helps me feel a little bit better about my life right now.
Dude, I definitely feel you on the writer's block thing. It's like, there's moments where you're like, you really want to do something and you're just like, I don't know how to do this right now. It's like, it's almost like your brain just said, nope, this isn't going to happen right now. And dude, it's a really tough thing. And I mean, I imagine a lot of people struggle with this. And so I've come up with a few ways to get through it, but I'm really curious about like the like your strategies. I mean, you obviously kind of talked a little bit about it, but maybe you could expand on it. Personally, what I like to do in terms of breaking is I just say, you know what? I'm just going to play whatever music I like right now, whatever my mood is. And I'm just going to go and I'm going to just dance for 30 minutes. And whatever happens after that, I'm cool with, and this is what I would do for writer's block. And so I would go to the gym or wherever I was going to practice and I just play whatever music I like and it just puts me in this mood and then I just roll with it. And I find that gets me immediately out of the writer's block because I just kind of went with the mood I had. Because obviously there's some music for every mood you have. So you just went with that mood and then just laid on the ground, rolled around or whatever, top rocked or whatever. And then it grew into something now you're desiring to dance. And that's how I've always gotten out of that writer's block.
That is cool.
That
is cool.
Yeah, I don't know if that's maybe your approach or what your approach is.
Yeah, no, I think so. That's only a big one. Like when you talk about like that desire to dance, like it makes you think about, like the things that more times than not, the things that help me get out of it is when I feel compelled by something, whether that's like a sound or a song. If it's practicing, it's like very similar. It's like, I'm not gonna think about how I'm getting to the floor or what I'm doing. And often it's to music that I just am in the mood to listen to. I think the more times that we can do that, I just feel like there's a much greater chance that we'll be able to have a breakthrough moment.
Yeah.
And it'll just, and at the very least, it's like you're just sort of having fun for 30 minutes, just like being,
I mean, that's the thing is with the 30 minutes, I say, you know what? I have 30 minutes to definitely spare to do this. And if I can't get it done in 30 minutes, oh well, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
I'm not gonna beat myself up over it, but I need to give myself at least, 30 minutes. I definitely need to just dedicate to this to try to get something happening.
Yeah.
And and I find that most of the writer's block comes from you trying to force something on yourself. And so
Yeah.
and so yeah, my strategy was like, don't force it, other than that you're just forcing yourself to be in this space for 30 minutes, and whatever happens after that is cool. But go with your mood, go with what's going on in your life, so there's times when, you're just feeling sad for yourself or whatever the heck. I'll be like, man, I just want to listen to Coldplay and cry in a pillow or whatever the hell. You know what I mean? No, I'm just playing. But, so it'll be like,
there's nothing wrong with Coldplay. Coldplay is cool.
Dude, I love Coldplay. Dude, Coldplay is definitely one of my favorite groups. But anyway, so like there would be times, dude, actually, I think I've sent you this. We did me and the rest of my crew, Second Nature, we did a show we tried to do music that typically you wouldn't dance to. It was kind of like
I remember that.
Yeah, it was like one of our guys was good at like modern dance and ballet and stuff, and so we got a lot of inspiration from what he was doing, and we were like, let's try to make like a modern dance show out of breaking. And so we just took all these songs. So one of the songs was actually a Coldplay song. I kind of made the whole piece for that section of the show, and it was to this Coldplay song. I forget the name of it.
That's sick.
But yeah, no, but I mean, that sprouted out of just me going like, oh, feeling sorry for myself. Like, let's listen to Coldplay, and then take 30 minutes to just dance. And then like I found that I just started dancing and creating stuff, and it was like, kind of in a different world than like what you would be doing at like a jam or something, but it's still like novel ideas and something that's going to help you grow as a dancer. So I like that.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, in the literal sense, like just different sounds and rhythms and stuff like that, and speed just like opens you up to moving differently. You're always going to move differently. And so, that's a huge for dancing. Yeah. That's such a huge way to get out of that for sure. I was just going to say that, definitely send me that again. I want to watch that again. But
I'll send it to you.
Yeah, but also, when you're talking about that desire to dance, I think that makes me think about, just the desire to do anything creative in general. Like, and I think for me, again, that goes back to, like the question of why, right? So like what I mean is like, some days I'll come back extremely exhausted, and more times than not, sometimes the act of practicing or trying to work on music or something felt like it was almost like ink bleeding onto the page from the day, and that ink being like this goal-oriented, like task-oriented kind of thing. Like, I need to finish this, and this, you know what I mean? And by this time, but it's like that's not why I'm doing it. But I forget a lot. Most days I forget, and when I'm able to be in a place of like desire, right? Like when you're listening to, you haven't even started working on stuff, but you're listening to something that makes you feel the desire to make something because you love, for me it comes from like that love of music being like filling me so fully that now it's just like pouring like out everywhere, and it's pouring out in terms of the fact that like I want to make my own version of that. I love it so much that I want to tell my story. And so like when I'm in a place where I feel that desire, whether it's like like you have literally nothing in your production program, and you find one really funny sound that makes you laugh, then I feel that desire. I'm like, this funny sound like into something, or that song that you really enjoy, or seeing a project that like your previous guest, DJ Fiction, is that Fiction? Like me, whatever. That's the only way I'm able to like get out of it. If I can come to that place of like desire or like feeling compelled, that's the only way. Otherwise, it's just like, I just feel like I'm just checking. It's like a to-do list or something, but then it's like, it doesn't have any meaning for me anymore. Not to say that there's not merits to like, because again, on the topic of finishing things, like there's merits to, trying to start things that trying to finish things that you started and stuff like that. And I could talk about that forever, but the point is that I think like what sets you up, like the assist or whatever, the assist pass to like for your slam dunk is like that desire that you're talking about, and however you come to feel that way.
It's creating the desire out of like whatever situation you're in at that point.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I definitely think that art it'll create more desire to do what you're doing. For example, like dancing. Like once you start dancing, you want to dance more. But when you're on the fence of going like, do I want to actually dance or not? That's the hardest part, I think, for me, because it's like, oh, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, dude. Like today sucks. Like my, whatever, stupid whatever was going on today. So you just got to jump off the fence, really. And so that little 30-minute rule is basically me jumping off the fence. Like, let's just go into the space, see what happens. And then, hey, it just happens after that. You know what I mean? I don't think I've ever left a session, after 30 minutes, even though I've completely dedicated myself to like, after 30 minutes, if you want to leave, just bounce, and there's no hard feelings at that point, but I don't think I've ever left after 30 minutes. And there's been times when I was like, fuck dancing, but I still was like, let's go, let's just do it. And so I don't know.
That makes complete sense. I mean, even last night I experienced that. But I never regret it. When I finally get to that place, it's like, man, this is like the best gift I could give myself, And 30 minutes, like that's crazy. Like, because that night I wanted to just go to sleep. And then, when I do that, I feel even worse the next day. I feel like I have less energy, I have less, enthusiasm. But it's just nuts. How like once we get over that little hump, then that 30 minutes for me, at least, it's like a reboot. It's like a reinvigoration. It just helps with everything.
I don't know the psychology of it, but there's got to be something in like being basically mentally drained from whatever you're doing. In your case, like being in med school, but entering a creative world in your brain, it does like rejuvenate you in a weird way.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, it's the best thing, man. It's like, there's this producer from Los Angeles named Teebs, and I remember he had this interview where he was like, he was saying that like, music is the only place that makes sense to him. He was like, it's the only place that makes sense to me. It's a place where I can go, something like that. It's the only place I can go where everything makes sense to me. And that way too, it's like, I mean, the things that I made and stuff, like they are, there are places that I hope can take people somewhere, wherever that is. But for me also, they're like literally places I constructed for myself to escape to and to exist in, because man, sometimes just, that's the day is too heavy. It's too much to bear sometimes. And so to have a place that you created for yourself, your own like hyperbolic time chamber or whatever, like, it's the best. And
it's art is a deeply human thing, I think. And we do a lot of non-deeply human things, I think, in our life. I mean, obviously, like, working in an office or whatever, like it's not really something that we've evolved to like be doing all the time, you know what I mean? Being a part of that, because it's just like only in the last, I don't know, what is it, 100 years, maybe even only like 50 or 60 years has the human race really been putting themselves in that kind of space. I mean, like we were basically hunters and gatherers, like what, I don't know, 300, 400 years ago or something. Like there's not a lot of time to evolve out of that world. And so, but I think art has been with us since like basically when humans became humans or whatever, you know what I mean? So I think that's why it's such a therapeutic thing for everybody to kind of go back into the roots of them as a human and express themselves to cope with like all the extra shit that we've added on to our lives in the in the past 100 years or whatever. So
man, you're speaking on something so just man, so intrinsic to being human. It's a fundamental part of us, and that's why I trip out. Like, sometimes, like, at least for me in like some academic spaces, it's like, let's say you're working with 10 colleagues and they have never met each other, and you have like a morning meeting and everyone's like, okay, introduce yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you go to school? And what are your hobbies? And then like people will say what they're going to say, but like, I don't know, sometimes I'm like, damn, like this person didn't mention anything creative. And and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think everything there's some creativity, some component of creativity in a lot of ththings, but
yeah,
it's just something that's like, so yeah, like you said, so human, and like something that it should be like mandatory, like in every school curriculum or every like job, I don't know, like description or something that you should have like time allocated every day to journal or to whatever, to make your like latte art or whatever.
Yeah.
Because it's like it should be embedded in society the same way that other things are.
It really.
Have legal,
I think it inherently is embedded into everything, but us as like adults and just the like business world, and I don't know if this is, maybe it's probably wrapped up in a little bit in like capitalism too, is that we try to suck it out a little bit, right? I mean, I guess if you're looking at capitalism straight for what it is, it's trying to, you're trying to get more money for the effort that you're putting in, right? That's kind of the main goal of it, right? And so it's deeply embedded to be efficient. And I think what happens with that is you try to make a process for something to be more efficient. But by doing that, you're also kind of taking out a little bit of the creativity that went into getting a certain task done, right? Because everybody's gonna probably approach the task a little bit different, and that's maybe how they're inserting their own creativity into it. But when you're saying, no, don't do that, here's the exact process you should do, because this is the most efficient thing that we've figured out in the 50 years that we've been running our business. So do that. And so in the efforts of making more profit, you're kind of sucking out a little bit of the creativity. And that's not to say that I think capitalism is necessarily like a bad thing. I think it also helps, kind of motivate a lot of new innovations too. But I do think that when we inherently are always like focused on that kind of like profits, you do stray away from a little bit of creativity, because of essentially like creativity is a little bit of play, right? And a little bit of play takes a little bit of extra time, right? And so a little bit of extra time means a little bit of less efficiency for the bottom line, right? And so that's I think like in that consideration of like what's in the best interest of the GDP, like things can fall to the wayside, right? So like like you said, what you said about the considerations about creativity or doing something for the sake of personal enrichment, I imagine that's not built so much into that algorithm or whatever that thing is that they figured out is the most like effective way to make money or capital. And also just stuff like other things too that can fall to the wayside, are like human rights, or like or these considerations that are also fundamentally human, but like all too often like we kind of turn a blind eye to them, like but that's a whole nother conversation. But but creativity is a huge part of that too, that I think is a lot of the time, because really, like if you think about it, I mean one could argue that like there's not really an end point to that, right? You keep finding ways to generate more and more and more, and then what, like what about the people that have been building that for so long? Like how's their spirit, like are they able to be creative? Are they able to have fundamental rights? Are they able to live a healthy life, and also I guess while still being able to help like generate that capital or whatever? I think probably what the way to maybe fix that, and maybe this is getting too political, but is to like really is to put like the human part about it over the profit part of it. It's okay to make profit. I'm not against that at all. But definitely when when that's stepping on, creativity, human rights, stuff like that, that's not a good position to be in as like a for the human race, right? It's
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, as dancers, as creative people, as podcasters. I mean, like, I think it's like inherently political, and it's inherently also, yeah, like it's a platform that gives us this opportunity to address or speak on things that we're also passionate about too. So it's like, I think there are also things that we can't really separate. It's like that creativity feeds into that too, and so like with the music stuff too, it's like I didn't want to obviously be preachy and stuff, but I also wanted to paint like a real picture of like, because like my mental condition is also, it's just a mirror, like, and for many of us, like our art is just a mirror of ourselves and like how the world is like affecting us in that moment. And I'd be too explicit with what I like made and created, but it also is like openly trying to start a conversation about whether that's mental health or like the socio-political context in the United States, or the isolation that I feel and have felt as a result of school, or obviously everyone needing to be indoors for people's safety and stuff. Like, I don't know, I guess I'm just trying to say in a convoluted way that like we have a responsibility as artists to create spaces for people to like think about these things and talk about them, and and maybe even motivate, energize, and create enthusiasm around doing something in their own way. So yeah, to make this world a little better. So
yeah, no,
and
I was gonna say, yeah, really the only way to make the world better is to like make a conversation about the things you want, the changes you want to see. And all too often, I think things get like super political or whatever, and like people just, go into like a emotional state and want to like, I don't know, not want to have that conversation, and I think that's partially why I created a podcast, because it was like that. I mean, I'm just a dumbass out here, like, and
oh, come on, man.
I feel no. I mean, honestly. I feel like
you're not a dumbass.
I feel like any kind of brilliance I have is a culmination of all the brilliant people that have had conversations with me, right? I think I'm just like a dumbass that like was able to like soak in a little bit of brilliance from everybody. And so, before I was doing a podcast, I was still like having conversations like this all the freaking time with people, like, after practices or whatever the hell, I'd be, doing that. And I would be like, man, I learned so much stuff from just this person, and they might have just been some regular ass person. I remember, I think I talked to like this homeless dude, and he like put me on game about so much stuff. And, but anyways, like, so it's like being able to like, pull stuff out from like a conversation, I think was super helpful for me, and I think that it would be very helpful for other people too. And that's kind of why I decided to make a podcast, because it's just like a conversation needs to be had to like really grow, at least for me. And so
I mean dude, we've been talking about this for so long. I feel like for so long you had been talking about oh man, should I like work on the YouTube stuff again, or like I want to do this podcast and everything. But it's like like I know I get what you're saying. I would also just say that you had to think about, what is this podcast really about? How are you how are you facilitating these conversations? How are you even prepping someone that you want to talk about for their interview or whatever on the podcast, right? Sending them the questions, or in the design, there's so much, right? Like, again, it's like a sort of assist too, right? Like to the interviewee, it's like you're setting all this background stuff and orchestrating all this stuff so that there can be like a good conversation that happens in the first place, right? You're like the architect of all that stuff. So like, you definitely got to give yourself some credit, man, because you can't like a platform, right? There's no platform if there's nothing to stand on, but you're creating that. So I would just say that, and like anyway.
Yeah, I mean, dude, I'm trying. You know what I mean? It's like I mean, most of the time when I'm like figuring out who to get on here and I'm like figuring out topics and stuff, dude, it's for reals. Just like I'm remembering conversations I had with that person before and like all the strokes of brilliance that has come from those conversations to like dig deeper into them on the podcast. And that's kind of like where all that comes from. I mean, basically that's what I sent you. I mean, me and you have talked about tons of stuff like that before, all these questions that I've sent you. So, I mean, again, like maybe there's some brilliance in me, maybe, I don't know, but I definitely think there's a lot more brilliance in the people that I talk to. And, you know, there's a function, I think that there's a function of my own intelligence that is highly, you know, probably like 95% of it is from all the like smart people around me, I think, you know.
You had to be open to it. You had to be open to that information.
Yeah.
Also,
maybe that's the moral of the story is openness. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Well, dude, this has been a dope podcast. I like really like talking to you. But we're like kind of hitting what is this, an hour and 15 minutes.
And I really like your shirt. We didn't get to talk about Earthbound, but Earthbound.
Oh, you want to talk about Earthbound? We can go over if you want to.
I mean, I don't know if you feel like there's time, but I don't want to push this podcast to the limits. But I just wanted to say that's a great shirt. And for all the viewers out there, that's a dope shirt.
Yeah, no.
I kind of want to go there and steal it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I love this shirt too. No, it's man, Earthbound has such like for people who don't know, Earthbound is like a video game from the Super Nintendo era, and it was like, I guess what, JRPG kind of game, but it was so different from everything else that was put out at that time, and it's colorful, you know, it has a really interesting storyline, and you know, obviously other games have done that too, but like one of the coolest things that I felt in that game was like it took me on a journey that lasted beyond what it lasted beyond what the like scope of the game is, right? It was because I don't know how to explain this without like ruining the game, but like you're basically going typical kind of like RPG fashion, going to like different areas, fighting bosses and like leveling up and stuff. And you know, so it kind of tricks you in a way because you're like, oh, this is just a regular game. And then when you get to the final boss, it's like a slap in the face because it's like everything that happened in the game is just it's like it's turned upside down, and there's like this freaking demonic like thing that's attacking you, and it was like nothing like anything else in the game. And I just distinctively remember I was probably like 12 or 13 playing the game where I was like, oh shit, I'm in over my head, like what the fuck did I get myself into? And it was like a deeply it was like a moment in my life where I was like, oh my god, dude, I'm like really going up against like I had a feeling where it was like, oh man, like I wasn't ready emotionally for what the fuck just happened in the game. You know what I mean? And you probably know what I'm saying is like everything was like colorful and happy and cute and stuff in the game, and then you're facing this boss that's just like, I'm gonna eat your soul and fucking, you know what?
Yeah.
And anyway, so like that game just really changed me because it felt like it was like an experience for like it was like a metaphor for like growing up in a way, right? Right, because you're a kid, you're going through your life, you're doing what you're told, you're fighting the bosses, you know, whatever, you're going to recess and, you know, freaking you know, going on with your life and shit, just like any other game would have you do, right? And then you are faced with like some actual fucking shit that is changing you from a kid to a man, right? A kid to an adult, right? And that's how that felt to me when I was playing that game. right when you get to the
That's
end of it.
crazy.
And so like it always had this deep impact on my life. And then anyways, like, so later on I read about what the author of the game was trying to do, and he said that he based the whole ending on basically like a traumatic experience he had as a kid, and going into like the wrong movie theater or something and seeing some wild shit or something in a movie, and it just like it was like a distinct moment when he realized he's no longer a kid anymore. He's like becoming an adult.
Wow.
And so I don't know. Anyway, so like that convinced me that video games are like true art, and it's a medium for art. And anyways, that's my whole spiel about that game, and that's why I've always loved it.
Yeah, really though. I mean, the storytelling in that game and in general, like that's why I gravitated towards RPGs when I was growing up, because the stories were always good. You know, first learning about romance, first learning about it's complex, also like complex, like just like this whole gamut of topics, right? Like extraterrestrials and like time travel, like all this stuff that just ignites the imagination. And it's just like, you know, and that's fun for a kid too. It was fun as a kid too, just thinking outside of like your environment. And but I love that that metaphor for, you know, transitioning from like childhood to adulthood. And I love that you got that from that, and then also that it just turned out that, you know, when you looked into it, that there was actually some of that in a way, you know, based on the experience of the creator. That's pretty dope, man. I didn't know that. So
yeah, no, I mean,
you just dropped like a ton of knowledge, like
no, I've always had a very personal relationship to that game, for sure, because it just like it for real. It's like it for reals had like an impact in my life.
I love it.
And you know, which is what art does. And so it was a definitely a defining change of perspective, I think, in my life. And so,
wow.
Anyways,
I love that, and I love that you had some time and space to talk about that on this podcast, because I imagine most of the time you're probably more concerned with helping the guests say what they want to say. But obviously, we both love that game, so hopefully that was fun for you. And I enjoyed hearing it a lot, because I was nerding out like, what? But yeah, that was fun.
That's some super nerd shit. Well, anyway, so
hell yeah.
Before we go too much longer, this was a great conversation, dude. I'm really glad that you could get on, and hopefully once COVID is over, we can like do something in person, because obviously I really want to do these kinds of things in person. Video calls are not my favorite thing. But anyways, while we close this out, what are your how can people get in contact with you? I know you got your Spotify, or you're on Spotify, you're on Soundcloud.
Yeah, all that stuff.
Instagram, Art is in the Eyes, right?
Yeah, you can send me a telegram. You can page me. You know what I'm saying? You can knock on my door. And actually, don't do that. That's you
don't come to his house.
Society. I don't know. I got some links. Like, I'll just give it to you, and you can like post it on the thing. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
check
if you want my number.
Yeah, you could slide in the DMs if you want.
You can slide in. You know, we could talk about Earthbound if you're interested.
Yeah.
We can talk about.
So dope. Well, check out the album Acuestate. Hopefully I said that right. It's got some major hits, some dope music, and thanks for listening, you guys. Shit, my cameras are dead. So
I got you like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Well, screen recording will suffice.
Yep. All right, peace, you guys.